What's up, world? Let me tell you about this beard growth oil I got from 12 tribes on Earth. 8 ounces of oily goodness with a nozzle that prevents sprays and spills, and soft ingredients that make it perfect addition to anyone's morning routine. From coconut to castor, all these oils are hand chosen. After using this herbal blend, the biggest thing I noticed is how soft, how strong my hair was, and how good I feel. Pick up your bottle today and make your beard the star of the show.
Shalom, family. Good to see you all. Hope you're doing well. Well, Americans continue to struggle in this society, because of the economy. And the sad part is salaries will never keep up with the inflation. And it really should. If these places of employment really cared about their workers, whatever they need to do to help them make it through a difficult economy, I think that should be done. But we don't live in a perfect world. We live in this one. And unfortunately, this one is filled with flaws because of who's running it. It's filled with flaws. And they're not the kind of people that will meet a problem head on. They're more like the kind that will let it marinate for years and years. And then one day they say to themselves, how did it get this bad? I've seen them do this. And the only time they'll jump into action is when something is happening to them. But as long as it's not exclusively happening to them, and they're just going to, and at the point, these rich people really don't see them of any value. See, back in the day, yeah, they would bend over backwards, for people of certain races. Now, now that we are in present day, they don't even see them as valuable. Why do you think so many of them are unemployed now? Because they no longer care about keeping even the people that look like them working. And to me, they kind of did this to themselves because of racism. They got the bigger salaries. They were able to live in the biggest homes and the fanciest neighborhoods and drive the best cars. And now many of these employers don't want to give you top dollar anymore. That's why you hear so many of them that are looking for work. They're telling you, I can't even find a job with the salary I was making before. It's less. If I get another job, it's less money. Yes, it is. Because you know what? They're not going to waste top dollar on any of you anymore. And I see that a lot. What you made before is not what you're going to make in the future. And as we start moving through this year into next year, it's going to be a lot more unemployment because jobs will continuously be replaced by AI. A lot of them already have, and there's going to be more. So if you can't compete with AI, then you may be looking at a huge problem moving forward. And see, these folks don't care about your survival. They care about their bottom dollar. And they have been showing us this, y'all, for decades. These rich people that own the corporations and everything, they care about their bottom dollar. They don't care how you're going to make it out here. They don't care if you can't fill your tank up with gas or buy the groceries. They don't care. They're going to just give you a salary that's really inadequate to an economy with inflation. They're going to continue to do that. You know, if you notice how they always give you like a 3% raise. You know why they give you a 3% raise? See, I was a senior manager. So I used to see salaries and I used to have to give raises to my people and everything. The reason why they give so many people in this country a 3% raise, because that 3% raise don't cost them nothing. It don't cost them nothing to give you that. That's why so many people in the population always will tell you, yeah, I got a 3% rate. That's why it don't cost them nothing to give you a 3% raise. You know, when I became a manager, when I became a manager, that was really the first time in my life I was getting 10% raises and 15% raises when I was a manager. But when I was just a regular worker, I was getting that, oh, we'll give you another 25 cents. It don't cost them nothing to give you those little teeny bumps in salaries. It really don't. That's why so many people get that type of raise in the country. So, y'all, my heart does go out to a lot of people, because I can see even the folks around me, I can see a lot of them struggling. And it's sad to see that. Not far from where I live, there's a church. And I would say, like around even before the C-19 lockdown, that line was getting longer then. They give out food every Wednesday, and that line, y'all, that line goes all the way down the road. You can see how people are really falling on hard times and they're having a difficult time putting food on the table. So they are utilizing, and why not use it? That's what food banks are for. You should use it if you're down on your luck. That's what they're there for. I never knock a person just because they have to get in a food line and they need food. I mean, it is what it is. You do what you have to do to put food on the table. If you got to go to 2 or 3 different food banks to have enough food for the next few weeks, you do you. So I want y'all to hear what they're saying about how the inflation has outpaced paychecks that the average person get. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Thank you. Thank you.
We're launching a new series, Affordability in America. Stories about prices from groceries to gas, why they're rising, and what people are doing about it. And we start with CBS's Christiane Benavides talking to a mom of 3 about how she's been able to stretch her family's budget.
Each trip to the grocery store is becoming more expensive for Florida mother Kiana Powell, shopping for her family of 5.
My grocery bill has definitely increased about $50.
What would you compare that to?
I would say like a month ago.
The costs are adding up fast.
We probably went over about $150, $200 in a month with the same items. So imagine now what my bill is going to look like starting in June when school is out.
The cost for tomatoes is up nearly 40% from last year. Ground beef is up more than 14%. The fish and seafood, that's up 6%. Powell says she's had to become more savvy finding deals online, shopping at different stores for certain items depending on what's on sale.
Social media has been a great thing. That digital couponing world has really taken over.
So instead of doom scrolling, you're scrolling for coupons.
I'm scrolling for coupons.
She's joined several social media groups and rewards programs to help with a shopping strategy and is always on the lookout for a good bargain.
So how much time do you spend looking for these deals?
Every day. Every day. I cannot let a deal go to waste if it's something that I am using daily.
It's not just groceries. She's feeling the pinch across the board, from gas to everyday household items.
You can have a really great salary in your head, and then once you break everything down, the wages and the economy, they're not matching.
So another tip from Powell is that if you see a good deal, then buy non-perishable items in bulk. The bottom line here is that people are paying more to fill up the same grocery cart. Tony?
It's true. Christian, thank you very much.
60% of Americans will lose everything they got in the second quarter of 2026 under this administration. You guys see how many people lost their homes and got their cars repossessed. And look at the tariffs on China. We're still going back and forth with China, man, on tariffs, 145% tariffs. The gas prices is through the roof. The food prices, man, I don't even want to talk about. People are riding around on empty, man. So in the second quarter of 2026, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs, man. Y'all see what happened last month? 17,000 spirit workers lost their jobs. There was something happened at, I can't remember the name of the place, where 30-something thousand people got notices before they even went to work. They got fired through email, man. I can't remember the name of the company, but it happened like 2 months ago. Repossessions, man, is up to 15,000 repossessions a day in the United States. And in most cases, people can't even hide their cars. Even if you hide them at a friend's house or in the garage, they got all those devices on where they can track the vehicle, no matter what state you in, where you put it at, man. And that's why I believe 60% of Americans is going to lose everything they got, man. I see houses all around me going up for sale. I see all kind of cars being repoed from grocery store parking lots and stuff, man. It's getting bad out here, man. Save your money, man. Save your money. It's getting bad out here. This guy that's running our country don't give two fucks about you, man. He don't give two fucks about me. He's already a billionaire. He made it very clear that he do not care about your financial situation, man. Thanks for watching.
Why am I spending half of my paycheck just trying to drive to work, the grocery store, and my kid stuff? Like every time I fill up in Michigan, it's like a jump scare at the pump. Don't even get me started on people who drive like trucks or SUVs. I don't understand how they're affording it. I just don't. Like people are out here choosing between a full gas tank and groceries. This is getting ridiculous. I literally just can't.
You're right. A lot of people out here, not only groceries and having to choose between groceries and gas, a lot of people out here is having to choose between a medication, you know what I mean, fuel, food. Everything is a choice at this particular point. So whatever's important to you at the time. But yeah, people are here fighting, bro. And now the domestic violence statistics, arrests has went up, man. Like I say, when people money funny, they get angry, they get upset. And sometimes they tend to swing that way, which I don't necessarily agree with, man. Just walk away. But yeah, people out here are constantly hurting right now. I hope our government do something soon, but other than that, man, don't seem like it. Let's move to the next one.
President Trump's approval rating has now dropped to the lowest level of his second term at 37%. And views of the economy have dropped to their lowest level in several years. Only 29% now say the economy is good. Gas is $4.51 and change per gallon. Is this pressure all due to gas prices?
Gas prices aren't helping. It's not the only thing. I always start with feelings because they're so closely connected to people's finances. They tell us they feel stressed, they feel concerned about their personal finances, and feelings of economic security are down from a year ago. Now, gas prices are increasingly, they tell us, being a financial hardship on them. Overall, though, they continue to tell us they don't think their income is keeping pace with inflation. And that's something we've been seeing now for years coming out of the pandemic. So contextually, yes, it's part of something larger. The other part of this, though, is uncertainty. which is a top way that people describe the overall economy. And the way that relates to gas prices is, take, for example, just the situation in Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. People tell us day to day, they don't feel like they have a clear understanding. They're getting a clear understanding of what's going on there. And of course, that is impacting gas prices. That's part of what I mean by uncertainty. But the other part of the big picture here, you pull back, you look at the job market. People aren't confident that if they had to find another job, they could. They even think, you hear so much about AI in the news.
Structural changes.
Big structural changes. They think AI is going to start taking jobs. And what it leads to, when you look at opportunity, even generational opportunity, there's a lower number who think that their opportunities are going to be better than their parents were.
Inflation just got worse and people are finally starting to feel another paycheck. New inflation numbers just came out and they were hotter than expected. Prices rose 3.8% over the past year and gas prices alone are up almost 30%. That means people are paying way more for basic stuff like food, gas, flights, and even clothing. But here's the part that really matters. Wages are no longer keeping up. Real wages actually fell, which means even if your paycheck stayed the same, your money buys less than it did before. And that's why so many people are confused when they hear that the economy is doing fine. On paper, jobs are still there and the stock market is holding up, but everyday life is getting more expensive, especially for middle and lower income households. This also makes it harder for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates anytime soon because inflation is still running way above their 2% target. So yeah, people aren't imagining the financial pressure right now.
Wendy's quietly closes 200 locations. Here are the top 7 states affected. What do you notice about this list? What do you notice about number 1 and number 2? Walmart is laying off over 1,000 employees. General Motors is doing layoffs. It's up 50% so far in 2026. I just saw some information that we're all paying over $650 more per month right now to live. Inflation came in very hot at 3.8%. Gas where I live is almost $6 a gallon, and it's almost $7 a gallon for diesel. Stores closing, layoffs, and higher fuel prices. You are going to see something like we have not seen in our lifetime. We have the least qualified administration running our country in our entire history. Let me remind you that number 47 has gone bankrupt 6 times and has about 25 failed businesses, including a casino, Trump University, Trump Steaks. Also right now, 590,000 cell phone orders since last year with a $100 deposit. That's $59 million. That hasn't been delivered. You have to worry about this economy, not just the economy, but our relationships, our trading partners, our social services, our social programs, and now we potentially have a hantavirus outbreak. This is the worst administration in 250 years. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be something extremely, extremely bad.
President Trump's war in Iran and rising costs fueled by it are impacting how Americans feel about the economy and his presidency.
Because we want to stop the threat of being blown to pieces by a lunatic. Everybody says that's fine.
Trump's approval now at the lowest level of a second term. Only 27% of Americans approve of how he is handling inflation, and 76% now say they're concerned about their personal finances. A new poll also found that 69% of Americans say they don't have a clear understanding of the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. As the war is adding to economic concerns here at home, President Trump visited his Virginia golf club shortly after issuing a new warning to Tehran. The administration's focus on Iran has Americans feeling the pinch. Almost 60% of Americans described gas prices in May as a financial hardship last week. The president dismissed affordability concerns. I don't think about American financial situation. I think about one thing: you cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. The president doubled down in an interview with Fox in Beijing. President Trump ran on an economic revival.
And stagflation is now upon us because the rate of inflation has surpassed the rate of wage growth. What this means directly is that wages are now not developing at a rate that can keep up with the inflation. If you don't know what stagflation specifically is, I made a couple of videos about this. So stagflation is when you have stagnant economic growth, plus inflation, stagflation. And the inflation part, we all see prices are going up. And it's not really important why prices are going up, but they're going up. But I will say quickly, the prices are going up because of monopolies, because one company owns so many other businesses, they bought their competition. So since we don't have competition in the market, prices are going up. But that's besides the point. The other side is the stagnant economic growth. We haven't made jobs since President Trump has taken office. There has been literally zero job growth. So people are not finding new jobs. In fact, because of AI and crazy business practices, people are losing jobs at a very high rate, much higher than in the past. And that is a sign of stagnant economic growth. Your wages are not moving, your jobs are not developing, you're not creating new jobs. So all of that is stagnant economic growth. Stagflation is considered extremely rare, and it was avoidable in the United States had we stopped the monopolies from forming. We had a law, the Sherman Act, back in the 1700s that knew if companies have monopolies, it would be detrimental to the American consumer, but Congress allowed loopholes. The law allowed loopholes. Lobbyists over here arguing for their companies and everything, loophole after loophole that allowed these conglomerates, these mergers, these big buyouts to just buy their competition. And now the inevitable has happened. We're in stagflation. The thing we tried to avoid, with the Sherman Act of not allowing monopolies is now here, and now we have stagflation. And it's rare because most countries would not allow this. They would have put laws in place to say, okay, businesses, you may have bought your competition, but now we're going to limit on you what you can actually charge people. They would have done something. Okay, businesses, you can't fire your people unless you have a reason for it. And that's the whole argument. It's that our government has allowed us to get to this point. Other countries have strict consumer laws, strict job protection laws, like you can't just be fired and whatnot, but not in the United States. They can just fire you without even telling you why. You can literally get an email in the United States saying you're fired, and that's that. So because we don't have real job protections, labor protections, and we don't have real consumer protections in the United States, stagflation has taken over. And there's no real way to get out of it. It's going to be a constant circle of, wages going lower, prices going higher, people not able to buy goods, companies raising prices because people aren't buying, and it's just going to keep going. Less people are going to be able to buy what they need, or they're going to go into major credit card debt. Credit card companies won't get paid, the whole nine. People are probably going to start trying to file for bankruptcy, and it's a vicious cycle, and the only way to fix it is to literally kill the economy. You have to raise the interest rate so high that nobody buys anything until finally the businesses bring their prices down. That is how you fix stagflation. You pretty much have to starve the businesses of money, which means the average person suffers because they won't be able to buy the things they need. This could have been avoided. Y'all have a good day.
Iran war update, Friday, March 6th. Bad economic news for Americans as job numbers were terrible last month. We lost 92,000 jobs when it was expected that jobs would grow. Unemployment has also risen. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. 20% of the world's oil and a significant amount of natural gas goes through the straits. Prices are spiking. Supply is dropping. Kuwait, for example, has begun cutting production at some oil fields after running out of room to store its bottled up crude. Oil prices may go up another 50%. That's 50, according to the Financial Times. Qatar expects all Gulf energy producers to shut down exports within weeks and drive oil to $150 a barrel. The country's energy minister told the Financial Times everybody that has not called for force majeure is going to in the next few days. Oil prices are already up 20% this week. Gas prices are also going up this morning. Gasoline, the U.S. average gasoline price just hit $3.32 a gallon, up 11% in 5 days. U.S. gas prices are now higher than at any time during either of Trump's two terms. Trump may have made things worse, according to the Financial Times. Trump's decision not to refill the strategic petroleum reserve stockpile, drained by his predecessor Joe Biden, has left consumers exposed to an oil price shock following the attacks. There are also reports that the Trump administration did not start looking for ways to calm the oil and gas markets until days after the invasion of Iran, because apparently they thought oil and gas prices wouldn't spike. How serious is the energy crisis? Qatar's energy energy minister told the Financial Times that war in the Middle East could bring down the economies of the world. He says it will hit growth, push up energy bills, and lead to shortages of products. He added that even if the war ended immediately, it would take Qatar weeks to months to return to normal deliveries after their plant was bombed by the Iranians. Trump has said he would ensure global shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz by providing insurance. The problem is the Financial Times now says the U.S. doesn't have enough money in the budget, at least what was budgeted, for Trump to do this. Also, what ship is going to want to go through the Strait of Hormuz if they're going to get blown up? Insurance covering the product doesn't really help if you die. Regime change is back on the table. Trump tweeted this morning on his social media platform that the war with Iran will not end until the regime changes and he gets to pick the new leader. That is yet another new goal that Trump has added to this war. U.S. CENTCOM says the war is likely to last through September at least. That's a good 7 more months. That is $200 billion to $400 billion price tag at current prices of $1 to $2 billion a day. Asked whether Americans should be concerned about retaliatory attacks by Iranian hit squads at home in America, Trump said, I guess.
I'm 39 years old and I have zero savings for retirement. And I don't know when I'm going to be able to start saving because my bills cost more than my paycheck. We're working 60 plus years, and we retire broke. I'm seeing videos of 80-year-olds that are too old to work, but too poor to retire. Name one person you know that's gotten wealthy throughout all their years of working. Just really think about it. Did your grandparents get wealthy from working? Are your parents wealthy from working? Are you wealthy yet from working? And my grandparents had to choose between prescriptions and food. I remember that before they passed away. I remember them having to make those choices. I know people who worked their whole life and they retired poor. They didn't get to retire because they were poor. They were too poor to retire. I don't know anybody, or I haven't personally met anybody who's created wealth from working their whole life. Let me name some people you know, because I don't know anybody.
Why does my salary go up every year, but I still feel like I have less money than before? Because your raise is not keeping up with inflation. Your company gave you 3%. Inflation ran at 4.5%. You did not get a raise. You got a pay cut with extra steps.
So I am actually earning less in real terms, even though the number went up.
Exactly. The number on your paycheck went up, but the number of things that Paycheck can buy went down. That gap between your raise and inflation is called your real wage. And for most corporate employees, that number has been shrinking quietly for years.
So every time inflation beats my raise, I am technically losing money.
Every single year. And your employer knows this. A 3% raise costs them almost nothing compared to what replacing you costs. The average cost of replacing one employee is 6 to 9 months of that employee's salary. Your raise was not a reward. It was the cheapest way to keep you from leaving.
They calculated exactly how little they could give me.
Always. Which is why you never negotiate once a year. You negotiate the moment your market value exceeds what they are paying you. That moment comes faster than most employees realize.
All right, y'all. Yeah, Robert, it is rigged. It's always been rigged from day one. You know, like I said, you got to look at who runs the system. These are the offspring of their forefathers and foremothers that had slaves. So their mentality is they want to work you for as little money as possible. And that's how they've ran this entire job market in this country. All right. It's been ran like this from day one. So now many of them used to have advantages, but those advantages are fading away. And with the inflation, they're not even benefiting from getting bigger salaries anymore. So in reality, y'all, we're pretty much all in the same boat when it comes down to these jobs. We're all in the same boat. There is nobody that got that advantage anymore. And as far as the inflation, it's here to stay. It's here to stay, you know? And I think that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, but the inflation is not going to go anywhere. It doesn't matter if Trump left office and they brought in a Democrat. The inflation is still going to be here. It would not even make a difference taking Trump out and putting somebody else in. It would be the same results. People would still be dealing with the inflation. Yeah, unfortunately, there are still a lot of people, and they're working these jobs, and many of them don't know when that's going to come to an end because of the AI. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for all of your support. Make sure you share these live streams. And, and I also want to thank each and every one of you for over the past 2 years of supporting my small business. And yes, I am going to be planning another sale Memorial Day weekend. So just be on the lookout for that. So have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you on my next live where I'll be talking about these rare snowstorms that have been popping up in different states around the country. And this is May? Yeah, it shouldn't be too many places having snowfalls in May, but it is happening. Shalom, family.